Welcome to Not Another White Box, the channel that brings you all that's cool, quirky and unusual in the caravan world. My name is Cameron and today I am so excited to be bringing you another review video. But this is a review video with a little bit of a twist. I'm stood here in front of the Tab 400 Metropolis, which is one of my favourite caravans that I feature on this channel. But this isn't a brand new one, it's actually from 2021. I've decided that this year, because things have been affecting us all with the cost of living crisis, I'm going to not just focus on brand new non-white boxes, but we're going to take a look at some second-hand ones too. For this episode, I've partnered with Leeds Caravan Centre in West Yorkshire, who are selling this 3-year-old Tab 400 Metropolis, which unusually for the Tab brand is absolutely fully spec'd up. It's got underfloor heating, it's got Wi-Fi on it, an electrically operated opening window. There's so much to talk about, but we're going to dive into the review and then we're going to hitch up and take it away for the weekend. Please come along for the ride. As usual on my YouTube channel, we'll be using the Caravan to its full potential to give it a proper live-in test. The difference with this review is that we'll get to see how the Caravan has aged and worn within the last 3 years. The Tab 400 is 5.97 metres long overall and has a maximum weight of 1300 kilograms, so it is comparatively compact compared to most conventional caravans and is also very lightweight. We decided to visit York Rowntree Park Caravan and Motorhome Club site, which is actually a very local site for us, but it's not somewhere we've ever stayed before because we usually just visit York for the day. So it'll be interesting to see how our experience of this amazing ancient city compares for a long weekend. It was a comparatively short hop along the A64 to the site, which gave me a chance to see how the Tab would tow. I'm pleased to report that it towed very well overall, but we did find that the nose weight was extremely light when we had the awning under the rear bed, so we had to stop and reshuffle a few items inside to get the nose weight up. But I did find that the extra long A-frame that you usually find on these continental caravans made it more manoeuvrable along the narrow streets of York, which was pretty handy as Rowntree Park is situated right in the middle of this ancient city. We received a lovely friendly welcome from the wardens and decided to have a venture into the city centre. It was here that we discovered exactly why so many Caravan and Motorhome Club members revere this site so much. The location is incredible. It's just a quick 10-minute stroll along the river and over a bridge, and there you are, right in the middle of York. It's close enough to be easy to get to, but far enough away from the hustle and bustle of the city centre itself, so the campsite is nice and quiet at night. We had a walk around the narrow cobbled streets of the city and discovered the world famous Minster, which was built all the way back in the 7th century. Surrounding this impressive building is a sprawling maze of shops, restaurants and bars, which makes the nightlife here quite exciting. We decided to have a meal at Coke Brasserie and enjoyed a gentle stroll back to the Caravan. The next morning, typical of British summer, it was raining heavily. I managed to make a dash to the little local coffee shop called Stanley and Ramona for supplies for breakfast. There is a locked pedestrian access gate at the back of Rowntree Park campsite, which allows you to walk into one of the little bustling hamlets of the city centre. It's taken a day and a half, but it has finally stopped raining long enough to enable us to take you on a much more in-depth tour of the Tab 400 Metropolis. Bear in mind what I said before, this is a 2021 model, but it is identical to the 2024 spec. So as I walk through, I'm going to show you what's standard and what's not. On this particular caravan, starting at the hitch, we have the completely standard Tab hitch. You can upgrade the tow coupling to an Alco stabilizer hitch, but the original owner of this particular caravan hasn't done that. Having towed it here, I would say it's not essential that you swap it, but it is something that you can change at any point during your ownership of the Caravan. So I don't believe it's an essential fitting, so I guess the first owner of this Caravan chose wisely from the options list, as we'll see as we move through the Caravan. The gas locker is truly impressive on this Caravan. It's absolutely huge. And I've just realised as we've started rolling here, I don't have the key in my pocket to show you inside. It's fine, that's what editing's for, bear with. Take two. We have this fantastic gas locker at the front, which is one of my favourite parts of the Caravan design actually, because it just keeps everything up off the ground. And how many modern Caravans now have front lockers that you've got to crouch underneath to get in, and it's difficult to pop the gas bottles into the front. 10 out of 10 to tab for this. It's got a manual little stay, so there's no gas struts to ever have to replace or renew, so there's a bit of thought of sustainability there, because how often, I mean, if you've caravaned as long as I have, you will know the gas struts on a locker that lift it upwards don't last very long, and they are very costly to replace. Look at that piece of aluminium channel, holds it up no bother. That will probably last longer than the Caravan. In the front locker there's space for two 6 kilogram Calagas bottles. We've only got one for the purposes of the test, but I quite like this setup because it allows a bit more space. We can keep our electric lead in there, our levelling ramps and the corner steady handle as well. So overall it's a great accessible space on the tab, and it's made out of this really good quality ABS plastic. And quality is the word we're going to keep coming back to when we're looking at this Caravan, because of course it's German, so you're expecting it to be good quality. Like I mentioned before, this is a pre-owned example, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on how things have worn over time. And so far, so good. A little bit of average wear and tear at the hitch end here, but we've got a fully galvanized Alco chassis, so we're not really going to expect any issues with that at 3 years old, providing it's been serviced every year, which this particular tab has. Moving round to what in Britain would be the near side, but on the tab I guess is the off side, because the door, you may have noticed, is on the European side, or as I would call it, the wrong side of the Caravan. It's not really a problem though. We're on Caravan and Motorhome Club site, and there seems to be this big stigma that European Caravans have to pitch the other way round. Not true at all. So on the business side of the tab, let's go with that, that's a better way of describing it. Before I talk about any of the amenities, look at those porthole windows. They are so cool. They're like nothing else you'll see on a Caravan. The only Caravan I can think of that's available to buy in Britain that has a similar setup is the Lamancel Fantaisie model, which check out, I've looked at on my channel as part of my NEC tours. But the tab did it first, and these are just so synonymous with the tab design and really just make this Caravan so funky and unusual, especially on this side where you have nothing but the porthole windows. It looks so cool. So starting at the front with the technical specs, which you'd be dying to know, we don't actually have a water pump as such, but a water tank. Under this flap here, we've got a lockable filler cap, and you also have a 12-volt power source here. So there is a pump, and it's a very fast moving pump, you're pleased to know, because by the time you've stood by your Aquaroll filling it up at the water tap, to then do it all again to fill the water tank on the Caravan seems a little bit of a chore to me. But it is a fast action pump, and it does decant that entire 40 litres of water into the Caravan in less than a couple of minutes. I was kind of surprised actually how quickly it did it. So you got 40 litres to go at inside the Caravan, and what I like about an onboard tank in a touring Caravan is it gives you that greater degree of flexibility. If you're on the road and you're stopping somewhere for a break or something, you've got water to go at for washing hands, flushing the loo, etc. It's not really something I would say is a bonus for off-grid camping or anything in particular. But if you were going to go in the depths of winter as well, it keeps the water inside the caravan where it's not going to cause any issues with the pipes freezing. Moving back slightly, we've got the hatch here for emptying the cassette toilet, which is just a bog standard Thetford cassette toilet that you'll see on pretty much every caravan going. It's just the cassette that pulls out, or doesn't in this case because it's stuck. It's just the cassette that pulls out, as you would expect to find on any British or European caravan. And of course we've got a lock on that door. You may notice there isn't a filler here for the pink stuff, as we call it, or the toilet flush. That's because it draws it from the freshwater supply. So you actually don't need to carry any pink additive for flushing the toilet. And it has a much more kind of powerful flush action. If that's a selling point, I don't know. Back here we've got the mains electric input, which is completely standard all over Europe. I quite like the height this is. Quite a lot of electrical inputs on caravans are like down underneath or inside a locker. That's just at sensible working height and makes it really easy for pitching up. Straight below it we've got the wastewater outlet, which I've had to prop up on our cord that holds the electric lead, because I forgot to bring the adapters with me. But it's not one of those flimsy little grey finishing pieces that British caravans have with the lids that constantly break off. It's a proper household style plumbing outlet. So it's actually really quite substantial, but it's kind of what we expect on European caravans. I wish British manufacturers would catch up. There is one waste outlet instead of messing about with two, and it is extra wide diameter, so it guarantees that the sink will drain properly regardless of how you are pitched. The final thing to note on this side of the caravan is we've got this cowling here, which is for the Truma water heater on gas. This is a slightly older style fitting, and this particular tab has had fitted from new the electric version of this. So the bog standard fitting that you get if you opt for the hot water is gas. It's much more expensive to have the electric system fitted, but again, if you do buy a tab second hand that has the gas only system, you can retrofit the electric system to it, but it is quite costly. But you have to weigh up using up your gas on site versus electric, which might be part of your pitch fee, or if you're on a metered pitch, you might end up using more electric pound for pound than gas. These are things that you have to consider nowadays, but that Truma boiler is a very robust system nonetheless. Moving around the back of the Tab 400, and one of the options that has been fitted from the factory that you cannot fit after the caravan has left the factory is the rear rack mount here. These are 4 strips that have a multitude of accessories that fit into them, and I would advise, if you're ordering a Tab brand new, whether you want the bike rack or the luggage rack, go for these, because you cannot change your mind later. So the first owner of this has specified these. Doesn't come with a rack or the luggage rack, but as the next owner of the caravan, you can buy these accessories from Tab at any point. I think there are 2 different bike racks that take between 2 or 3 bikes, and there's also a luggage shelf with 2 different sizes of luggage container, which looks kind of cute. It looks a bit like a classic car with a hamper on the back. It's very unusual. But you just want to be conscious of your nose weight, because you've got the fixed bed at the back here, and it's very tempting to load it up, as we mentioned on the tow here. When we had the awning back here, we had to reshuffle things inside the caravan just to make the nose weight a bit heavier. So if you are going for the luggage rack or the cycle rack, you need to load up the front end accordingly. So it's just something to watch out for. And I will show you when we go around the interior, they've gone for a fancy option on this rear window. You're going to have to keep watching to find out more. And finally, on the main door side, and we've got two options to show you on this side. First one is the alloy wheels, which were quite an expensive option when the Caravan was new. Not a lot of tabs had these, and they weren't actually a standard feature of the Metropolis spec, depending on the year that the Caravan was built. So these have been added. They were about £1,300 when this Caravan was new. I'm not sure of the current price, but they just add quite a lot to the style of the Caravan. The other thing that the original owner has specified is this exterior access locker, which is essential for loading items under the bed. Like I just mentioned, we had a bit of issues, and a few issues when we were towing with too much weight under the bed at the back, and the awning was under there. In fact, there appears to be a full-size awning for the Caravan and a purpose-made Isabella canopy. So there's actually two awnings under the bed. And at the side of the road, rather than traipse through the Caravan and rejig everything under there, I could just open this hatch, pull everything out, pop it in the car or move it to the front of the Caravan, and it made life so much easier. That is one of the options that you can't really retrofit to a tab, and quite a lot of the UK spec ones had them fitted anyway, but not all. So do check that out when you're buying one, because if you are interested in buying a tab Caravan, particularly the 400, which has way more options than the tiny little 320 two berth, you're going to find there's lots of different options that are entirely down to whoever bought the Caravan new, and this will greatly affect the resale value of the Caravan. This particular one, as we've mentioned, is fully loaded. It's even got Avtex's Wi-Fi on the roof, which as the next owner you just need to buy a SIM card for. So they've really gone to town on this, but the thing that I'm most excited to show you is the interior. So let's take a closer look. The first thing you see when you open the door of the tab is this little front end dinette, and I love this particular corner. I think it's a great place to sit in here. It's kind of for three people because officially this is a three berth, and this converts into a bed, but I love, in true European style, we've got this hanging pendant light above, which sometimes feels like you sat in a police station being intimidated. I'm just joking. It really does make it feel cozy and warm here. I love the big picture window at the front. Even the little touches like this fake pelmet here just help to soften the interior. The scatter cushions, the contrasting seat backs and everything, it's so trendy. And although we've got quite a lot of fake wood grain in here, which I know lots of followers of Not Another White Box don't particularly like seeing in a Caravan, in this particular setting, with the contrast of the soft materials, the padding on the wall panels, which we'll see a lot more of in the bedroom, really makes this space feel warm and cozy. But for two people, this works brilliantly. Even more so if you're a solo caravanner, because so far, well, we've been living with the tab for about 24 hours now, we've found whoever's sat at this side, it's not so much of a lounging seat per se. If I'm sat on the larger side, I can put my feet up and I've got places to rest my arms, and it is a cozy place to sit. But if I move round over here, you're a lot more upright and it's not as relaxing to sit here. So I'd kind of suggest, if there's two of you, one of you might like to sit on there and stretch out, and the other person might like to lay down on the bed. But we'll move on to that in a second. Towards the middle of the Caravan, we've got the kitchen area, and this is a really generously sized kitchen area. The kitchen unit itself is really deep. So we end up with quite a lot of worktop space, and as if this standard workspace wasn't enough, we've even got an extension at the end which clips in place like so, just to give you that extra little bit of food prep space. I love the fact that the 3-burner cooker is set right back here out of the way, so you've got all this room in front to prepare food. I mean, for the size of the Caravan, it's incredible really, the space it offers. The sink, I'll be honest, when I've reviewed the Tab 400 at the Caravan and Motorhome show, the sink was something I wasn't really sure about, because I'm British through and through, and this is the great debate between Brits and Americans. Do you use a washing up bowl? Americans don't even understand what one of those is. I can't imagine life without one. This sink, there is no washing up bowl that's ever going to fit it because it's so deep and quite small. However, having lived with it for the weekend, it actually works really well. It kind of reminds me of, you know, like those old Belfast sinks that are really deep, and you can end up putting your plate at the bottom, rinsing it off without getting water splashing everywhere. So actually living with the Caravan for a couple of days, that little detail works really well. Another thing that I'll commend the kitchen for is the storage, and there is tons of it, and that's a theme we're going to keep seeing on the interior of the Caravan. We've got 2 overhead lockers which are absolutely huge. I dare say if you really wanted to, you could probably squeeze a microwave in one of them, but don't quote me on that. I would never use a microwave in a Caravan, but I know a lot of people like that. Another feature that I love about the tab, which is probably because of the shape of it, but we see quite a lot on vintage Caravans as well, is the fact the tops of the cupboards are flat. And it means you can shove all sorts of stuff up here, out the way, but within easy reach. Tends to be things like your keys and your wallet and things like that, which I shouldn't be admitting to really, should I? Elsewhere in the kitchen, we've got the little knife and fork drawer down here. And you've also got this pull-out larder, where you can store larger kitchen items. Towards the end of the kitchen, we've got the fridge freezer, which is fitted nicely behind a matching wood door. And then in the front corner of the kitchen, we've got these circular cupboards hiding all our junk in there, which again are just quite unusual. The only criticism that I have of the kitchen is, I know the fact that it's so large is a selling point, but realistically, if they'd reduced the depth of the kitchen, this central area would have felt a little bit bigger. And that's something that we've found a little bit of a challenge to live with the tab. It's not the end of the world, but it's something worth considering. If there's 2 of you using it, whoever's at the kitchen is at the kitchen. Whoever isn't, sit down or lay down. Make your choice. Sticking with this side of the Caravan, and if I just fold that away a second, the first owner has fitted in the bedroom area a TV bracket. I'm not mad about how they fitted it to the wall. Could have been done a little bit better than a bit of rough sawn timber, but it is what it is. Once you've got a TV on there, you'd never see that anyway. Whilst we're down here in the boudoir, as we shall call it, this bed is really generously sized. It's the full width of the Caravan, and it's about 5 foot wide. The only downside of it, as we've found, is whoever is sleeping nearest this window, it does feel a little bit claustrophobic. I will be honest. It depends if you're that way minded or not. Things like the padding on the walls does help soften that, but whoever is laying here needs to be someone who doesn't have nightmares and sit bolt upright in the night. Sticking with the bedroom, and the thing that I alluded to outside is this rear window, which has fly screen and blind up here. So you've got both, and if we undo the catches, you won't believe this, it opens electronically. In about 10 minutes. Should have one of those little timers on this, shouldn't I? How long it actually takes. There we go. So in only half an hour, you can open the rear window by about 5 inches. It's brilliant. In all seriousness, it's just a bit weird, isn't it? It's kind of cool. It feels a bit James Bondish, and the ventilation you get through there is absolutely brilliant. So if you wake up in the morning, and just typically in the morning, most people would open a skylight or the top half of the door. This works just as well, and you'll be relieved to know I'm going to cut the camera before I close it again and make you sit through that all over again. Just before I leave the bed area, I'm just going to reiterate again the amount of storage. Underneath the bed, there's the typical fixed bed sized hole to fill with things. Like I said, don't be too tempted to put too much under here, because we've got the water tank at the back, and also the leisure battery is on this side. So there's already a little bit of weight back here. But up above we've got these little wire nets that hold things in on the shelves, and there's also a handy little bedside shelf that has an electrical outlet installed in it. Just next to the bed we've got the Truma gas heater, and in this particular tab it is gas only. Another one of the options that you could select is to add the electric element to this, which you'd be delighted to know isn't too expensive to do. You're looking at about £200 or £300 when I had a quick look online. So it's not mega bucks to upgrade this to the electric version as well. But they've already done it with the water heater. You've got the two controls down here for electric and for gas. But there is a secret fitting in this Caravan that you can't see, that I can't show you, but I can tell you about. That is underfloor heating. I'm not making this up. It has electric underfloor heating in this central area to the washroom. And I cannot begin to enthuse how much that is a game changer in a Caravan. It's lovely. As soon as you get up in the morning, the floor's warm. It's just brilliant. I didn't even know they fitted this to tab Caravans. And like I said, they went for so many options on this when it was new. When I ran it through the current tab calculator, which is in euros, so you'd have to adjust it for pounds plus import taxes, etc. This equivalent spec tab 400 Metropolis today is selling for about 33,000 euros. So it's a heck of a lot of money for a very small Caravan. But the kit it's got, the tech, the build quality, and just the fact there is nothing else on the market like it. It's brilliant. I really, really do like this Caravan, and it's so quirky and unusual. But I'm not quite done with the tour yet. I've got two more things to show you. Firstly is the wardrobe, which before I show you in there, I'll just point out that the main control panel for the Caravan is just here next to the bed. And actually using the Caravan for the weekend, one of the things that I've quite liked is how accessible everything is. When you're laying there in bed in the morning like this, and you're thinking, I'm going to get up and have a wash and have a shower, you can just reach down here and put the water heating on. You don't have to get up to do it like you do in just about every other Caravan. Same for the heating. The control knob is here. You just reach over and do it. And if you've left lights on, just turn the 12 volt off up here. I think at first I couldn't understand why they hadn't put this next to the door, but in the bigger context of actually using the Caravan, it makes a lot of sense being right next to the bed. And the other thing is the lights on it, because they're facing away from you, don't wake you up at night. It is very, very dark in here on an evening when all the blinds are shut, which is exactly as I like a Caravan to be. So the wardrobe then is quite generous. You've got some extra shelves in it, and it's also where they've hidden the mains consumer units. One little detail that I love is the flue pipe for the heater goes through it, so it is effectively an airing cupboard, hence why we've got our towels in here. They've been in there since this morning and they are completely dry. We've only had the heating on for maybe about 3 hours today, so that's absolutely fantastic. In here you'll also find the antenna for the Wi-Fi that's on the roof, but that is up to the next owner to reactivate that package, but the hardware is there to do it. I did mention that the tab has tons of storage, and one of the slightly weirder storage places are these little shelves here. I have no idea what you would put on them. Answers on a postcard, let me know in the comments. They are tiny. I don't know why they've gone to the trouble to do that, but it's there and I wanted to point it out. The washroom, however, is so fancy. I love it. It's like some kind of little boutique hotel shower space. I'm just going to sit down on the loo just so I can see the camera better. But again, tons of storage. You've got cupboards down below, cupboards up above, shelves here, even a little place behind the toilet to put spare toilet rolls and things. There is so many places to put things. I don't know if they've made too many shelves, because there isn't actually a lot of room to use the shower. If you have to pull the curtain round here, there's not a great deal of space to work with. I would definitely suggest, if you're buying this Caravan because you use your shower a lot in your current Caravan, this is probably not going to be ideal for you. I would say this is an emergency shower if you're off-grid at a festival or something and just want a quick freshen up. It's not an ideal shower space, if I'm being completely honest with you. One of the cool features though is that the tap for the sink is actually, the shower head pulls all the way out. Love a little space saving and I guess cost saving idea, such as that. We've also got this quite cool Venetian blind in the washroom, which I love, which I've already got tangled up in the rope, I'm sorry. Oh, don't show Leeds Caravan Centre this, they'll lynch me. Hang on. Venetian blinds are my nemesis. If you watch my channel and have taken a tour of our 1964 Cheltenham Puku, we have Venetian blinds on every single window in the Caravan and they look amazing, but they are the bane of my life. Luckily the tab just has one. If you get a tab that was made pre about 2018-19, the mirror that's here is actually here, full size on this wall, and the mirror folds over itself to hide off the window, which I think is actually a better idea, but I can see why they changed it. This newer style has a lot more places to store things. So overall, the washroom is fine. There's a heater outlet in here, you've got the toilet with the electric flush, plenty of storage, lovely big vanity mirror with fantastic lighting. The lighting in here is just next level. British manufacturers, take note. This is how you illuminate a Caravan bathroom. It's fabulous. But overall, I think the tab is just something so unique and really special on the market. And I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm not saying it's the perfect Caravan. It's a very niche Caravan, but it's such a well-considered design, which is what I love about it. It's just been carefully crafted and thought about. And yes, there are a few shortcomings which you're going to get in such a small space, but overall there are quite a few, and I think it's fantastic. And looking around it in a lot more detail, it's got kind of average wear for a 3-year-old Caravan, but nothing's broken, nothing's badly damaged, nothing appears to be missing. Everything seems to be holding up quite well, especially the bed. Very, very comfortable. That mattress has not aged a day. Typical German upholstery there, which is notoriously quite firm, certainly compared to other countries in Europe. So overall, I love the Tab 400, and this particular one, this Metropolis, is a fantastic buy. At £24,995, it's quite expensive, but you can see where the value for money lies, certainly with the build quality, the longevity of it, and all the tech that's on it as well. The only things that I would consider fitting are a motor mover, which you can add at any point, possibly a solar panel, depends how you're going to use the Caravan. But other than that, the Tab is really ready to hook up and go. It's a lovely little self-contained Caravan, and I shall be quite sad to take it back on Monday, but we've really enjoyed our time with it and hope you've enjoyed coming for a tour too. In the meantime, we're going to get on with our day, have another little trek into York, and make the most of this fabulous campsite, which I honestly thought was a little bit of a car park when we arrived, but the location is unrivaled. It's fantastic. So we're going to have a little walk along the river and go get a lovely evening meal, and I'm not sure where we booked in for tonight, but we'll take you along for the journey too. The heavens had opened again by the time we'd made it into the city centre, but we took refuge in Sostering Green, which is one of our favourite shops. I believe it's a Danish shop, and it sells nothing but absolutely gorgeous little homeware items, all at very reasonable prices too. We got so excited that I forgot to film much in here. I do apologise, we bought way too much stuff as usual. We called in for lunch at Doe-Eyed, which is an amazing small pizzeria just off the market square. The pizza and vibes here are absolutely amazing. After lunch we wandered around the market and then onto the Shambles, which is one of the oldest streets in York. Some of the houses here date back to the 14th century. We kept exploring the city between rain showers and settled on dinner at the Forest restaurant on Low Petergate just behind the Minster. With unusual cocktails and an impressively varied menu, we enjoyed it immensely. Suitably merry, we made the 10 to 15 minute saunter back to the campsite and turned in for the night. The Tab 400 Metropolis has been a wonderful base for the weekend, and we've enjoyed staying at York Rowntree Park and shall definitely be returning. The facilities are immaculate, which you kind of just expect from the Caravan and Motorhome Club at this point, but the location is what really sells the site. With pitch fees starting from £26.50 per night for members, it's a really cost-effective way of enjoying a city break, especially given how expensive car parking is in York city centre. The next morning we packed up and prepared to return the Tab to Leeds Caravan Centre. The Tab is so easy to pitch and pack up thanks to its huge amount of storage, handy front locker and its long reach corner steady handle. It's light enough to push and pull about by hand, very easy to couple up to the car. I guess it's time for my final thoughts on the Caravan, because I always like to say this when I'm not stood at the dealership with a salesperson breathing down my neck, which you won't find at Leeds Caravan Centre, to be fair. They're all very experienced caravanners there. But yeah, overall, I do really like this Caravan. It's very, very different. It's very, very unusual. I think it has a really, really niche audience, if I'm being honest. I know it's a 3-berth, but I think it works better for 2 people, or even solo caravanners. If you're on your own, it is absolutely ideal. It's perfect. There's been lots of things that we've absolutely loved about the Caravan. I love the size of the bed. I love the lighting in the washroom. I love the amount of storage it's got. I love the style of it, actually. It was centre of attention on Rowntree Park. I mean, as we were leaving and just pulling around the site doing the final loop to go out, there were 2 different people who were stood poised with cameras filming it go past. And there's a few more over the course of the weekend that we saw that snuck over to take pictures of it. So if you want to feel moderately famous, then this is a good caravan for you. But I can see why people like it. It's just so cool and so different. And on a campsite that was a car park of white boxes, it did really shine out as something just fantastic and interesting. I really thought the kitchen was a great working height. I thought the worktop space in it was fantastic. So if you're someone who likes to cook in your caravan, then that's a real big bonus. The only downside of the kitchen that I found was there is nowhere to fit an oven, and I don't think you could retrofit one either. So if you did want an oven, you'd probably need one of those like tabletop halogen ones, or an air fryer that would easily go in the tall cupboard under the sink. In terms of what we've not liked about the Caravan, we have found it very, we'll choose our word carefully here, cozy for the weekend. The body shape naturally limits the headroom, which in turn makes it feel a lot more closed in. And on an evening when you sat reading a book or wanting to watch the TV, it's fantastic. It's really cozy. But when you're wanting to do things that are a bit more practical, like unpack your bags into the wardrobe or get everything set up, it can be a bit of a challenge when there's 2 of you on top of each other inside. As I told you on the way up, we'd had issues with too much weight under the bed at the back. So this time I've left the water tank full and we've put the awning at the front, and it is towing well, but I wouldn't say it's towing exceptionally well. It tows perfectly average for a modern caravan. So expect there to be a little bit of bounce as you're going down the road, and you'll feel it sort of tugging at the car slightly, which does really surprise me, because I would have thought the extra curvaceous body shell would have helped with that. But of course we're on an Alco chassis with rubber torsion suspension. So if you were to buy a tab or this one in particular, I would recommend fitting the Alco shock absorbers, which will just take some of that bounce out, which the tab doesn't have fitted as standard. So I'd absolutely recommend that. But other than the sort of slightly twitchy nature, which bear in mind I am being mega critical there, because I tow classic caravans which are on proper coil sprung suspension, so they just float behind the car. To me, all modern caravans tow badly, but usually you find with the NotAnotherWhiteBox stuff, because of the weight and the size, they tend to tow better than a conventional white box, and I would kind of say the tab is just on par. So yeah, we've mentioned the sort of the space, we mentioned the towability. In terms of other things to criticize, I don't really think there are any. The quality of it is fine. Obviously this particular one is 3 years old, and it's certainly seen some use, and it's in great condition. There's nothing broken, there's nothing damaged. Everything seems to work as it should. The only thing I could sort of critique was some of the cupboard alignments in the kitchen were slightly off, but again, it's 3 years old and you'd have that adjusted up on the service. So very, very, very minor niggles. I have to say overall, the tab is wearing really well, particularly things like the bodywork. We see with some of the tab's rivals, over time the bodywork doesn't age so well. This is like the day it was made. It's still got a lovely shine to it. None of the body kit is discolored or anything, and that was my fuel light. Yeah, I'm quite impressed by how well it's wearing actually for a 3-year-old caravan that has, to my knowledge, been down to Spain. So it has seen some use, it's been towed down the road, and it has seen the sun. So you would expect things to yellow and, you know, degenerate over time, but the tab still looks great. So overall, I think it's a fantastic caravan. I think you've got to see one and experience one and be in one to see if it's for you. I don't think it's a caravan that I would say, yes, all couples will love this or all small families will love this. I totally accept it has a niche following, but don't let that put you off. If you're someone who likes to be in a cozy, warm cocoon of a space, if you're someone that likes, say, the barefoot caravan, or some of the other slightly smaller, less conventional sized caravans, then this is definitely a worthy contender. But if you're someone who's sort of looking at things like the Swift Base Camp or the Bailey Discovery, I don't think this is quite comparable, just because of the space it's got inside, but it's a totally different concept, different style of caravan altogether. So overall, is it NotAnotherWhiteBox approved? Of course it is. We featured the tab on our channel many times before, and it was really nice to actually get to experience one, and enjoy using it. And also fabulous campsite, York Roundtree Park. I've never actually been because we only live half an hour away. I've never actually been there, but for what it costs to stay there, to be able to be so close to the city in your own caravan, it's incredible. So do check out Roundtree Park, and of course you can check out some of our other tab reviews that we've done. I'll pop the links in the description below, and in the meantime, I've got to say thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.